lifetime belief that we don't deserve to be happy. Therefore, in the effort to prove ourselves right, we go over and beyond to make sure that we prove ourselves right. Because at the end of the day, being right is one of the greatest human desire, second to love. I'm Antonio Zanalato.
And I am your co-host, Jacob Saldana.
And I'm here to serve men who are seeking more out of their life and themselves, men who are ready to dive deeper and do the work. In this podcast, we will help increase your curiosity in order to live more of an examined life,
to live with integrity for yourself and others,
and to accept the things in life that you can control. Our goal is to help you bring out the warrior within you. Welcome to the Warrior Lab.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Warrior Lab. This is Jacob Saldana checking in.
What's going on, Jacob? Antonio Zanalato here.
Welcome back. And today we're going to be addressing a comment that we received on Instagram. Again, we want this to be a very interactive series. So we're trying to solve real world problems. We're trying to, support you in kind of what you're going through. And one of the questions that came up recently was around struggling with self-sabotage and self-doubt. So this person, they identify as being a very confident person, but doubt creeps in when good things start to happen to them within their life. And I know personally, I can really empathize with that. That's something that I struggle with a lot. I think how the self-sabotage ends up manifesting for us might all be a little bit different, but bringing some awareness to that is definitely the starting point. So Big Dog, in regards to self-sabotage, is that something that you've experienced within your own personal life?
I experience that daily. Yeah, it's definitely, I will say I classify self-sabotage as being an upper limiting belief. What that means is when everything is going good in our lives, we have tendency to find something to latch on that contaminate that feel good feeling.
Yeah.
And with self-sabotage being one of them. And what that looks like for me, let's say I'm in the midst of writing a book right now, right? As I was typing, I was typing this morning, I was like, who am I to write this book? What kind of credentials do I have to write this book, to make me, to make me competent to write this book, right? So, again, it's an expired story that we tell ourselves so we can be ahead of a disappointment.
So for you, self-sabotage shows up as being negative self-talk, I guess.
Yes. That's a form. That's a form. That's one of the many forms. It could be negative self-talk. It could be projection, in my relationship with my wife. I find myself trying to self-sabotage in the relationship over and over again. And by just projecting my insecurities onto her, so that's a form of self-sabotage.
Yeah. I think that's what's really important here is to try to identify these patterns, because for you, or at least for myself, and I think when we share some of this advice, this isn't coming from a place of like, this is what you need to do. Simply just sharing how it shows up in my life, how it shows up in Antonio's life, and hoping that maybe there's something that you can connect with. So for me, self-sabotage in regards to, I'd say more on the financial front, comes from an underlying belief, self-limiting belief, as you said, of truly making it. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm always just going to be like having my hands in so many different pots, so many different opportunities for money, and to generate a lot of revenue, which I've been a part of. Both of our gyms are grossing over $1 million, which, we have great ways to generate revenue. But at the end of the day, I find myself not really believing that I'm going to be able to reap the benefits of these businesses, because I literally can't even imagine myself having, say, a house here in Southern California with, let's say, a view of, any kind of valley or any kind of water, or I don't even need that. I can't even really picture myself having a house here with a backyard. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, I can't. It's just not even there, right? So like, that is where the self-limiting belief is in that, right? And just, why is that? Why am I feeling like that? Why do I really believe that I'm not going to be as wealthy as I could actually be?
Yeah.
And then once you kind of identify that, it's starting with that thought, and then you can kind of start reverse back, like the behaviors that are then leading to that. So I've done a lot of work on this. I constantly am reflecting on this. So that's the thought. I don't truly believe that I'm going to be like super successful and super wealthy. Mm-hmm. So what am I doing then to prevent myself from doing that? One of the things that I do is, like, when I find a little momentum within any type of business, or I have like a really good idea and I get the ball rolling there, then it's kind of going smooth maybe. And then I feel the urge to then create something else. Mm. So it's hidden within this ambition, and it's hidden within things that are very socially accepted, and I'm going to get pats on my back every single time that I do that. So I'm getting these little feelings of dopamine and that I am on the right path. But if the goal is to put down roots and buy another house here in California, then all of those behaviors are a form of self-sabotaging that ultimate goal of putting in roots in regards to, say, a house here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it gets a little.
Yeah. It comes, Jacob, I think the self-sabotage, when it comes to finance, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to, financial success, is that with that, our ticket price goes up, mm-hmm. right? And even if we are not aware of that subconsciously, now we fear that what we have to lose, it's something that we are not capable to afford, to handle, right? So the house on the water, right? It's not the fear of not being able to have the house, to be able to afford the house in the future. It is the fear of having eventually to lose that house because we are not competent enough to be able to keep it.
Yeah, and I think something else, as you're saying that, at least for me, is probably part of that, but also where I'm at right now and the work that I've done, and the way that I view myself, and how I view life. And I understand how short life is, and that everything has its own timeline, right? And it's very impermanent. Any of these things could fade away at any given time. So I think part of that conversation is probably around, say, making this commitment to purchasing this house, and then having a change of heart and wanting to do something else. So when it comes to commitment, I've committed to every one of these businesses. Like, it starts with a quick short-term idea that I tend to run with, and then I sign a lease of 5-10 years or whatever it might be. And there's this like crazy commitment in it. And something like, say, COVID happens, and you don't have the flexibility to just get away. So I think that is something, a value of mine that has been slowly rising to the top. To where flexibility is very important to me. And maybe I just haven't created the confidence around what a house could look like, having my own space outside of home ownership, so I'm still have one foot in that traditional American dream that I started on very early when I bought my first house in Seattle, was that was the path that would allow me to feel confident in my future, where in reality nowadays, it doesn't necessarily need to be. I could be renting a house that has all the things that I want, that I can call a home. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm just obviously not clear on exactly what it is that I want. There's part of me wants that those roots of a house, and to say that I have a mortgage or I own a home here in California. But then another part of me is like, I want to be flexible. I don't want to be tied down to, say a mortgage or another 10-year lease or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I hear you, and that's and that's real. That's real. However, what I believe, what I'm hearing is, you do desire to own a house here in California, and you are rationalizing not having to commit to that by coming up with all these stories. One of them being flexibility, right? Because let's be honest, a house, it's an asset. Yeah, the value could go down, at one point in time in history, but it's an asset. So push come to shove, if you need to pivot, right, because there is a business opportunity that you need to tackle, that you feel compelled to tackle, guess what? The house can always be sold.
Yeah.
And you can monetize on that. So I believe that the flexibility is just a way to rationalize the lack of commitment to that desire, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I bounce all around with that North Star of what it is, like as I mentioned multiple times before, my North Star a lot of the times is the vision of myself as an 85-year-old on my deathbed with my great grandkids around, my family all around, and like sharing stories and all that. But I also need to have these other benchmarks of these other goals that I want, in order to start working towards them. You through our men's group over the past couple of years, I mean, how much anxiety I deal with, like in the morning around just a lot of the risks or the things that I do, and I think most of that is rooted in that idea. It's like, I don't know exactly what it is that I'm working for in outside of that idea of like trying to become the best version of myself. Mm-hmm. That's all part of it. But if I had other goals too, like say getting clear on, okay, let's actually buy this house. Mm-hmm. My day-to-day then is going to have a little bit more structure towards that. My spending habits is going to have a little different structure towards that. Mm-hmm. Laura and I would be able to communicate a lot more clear on what we're wasting our money on, what we're spending our money on, what we're saving our money on. And it would end up giving me a lot more structure. So all of this just being a roundabout conversation around self-sabotage and what that looks like. And I think foundationally, we all are going to have some level of that. It just might vary for what it looks like. Yes. So if you're already recognizing the fact that you have these tendencies to self-sabotage, I think you're already ahead of the game as far as being able to identify it. And then, like I said, it's about identifying the behaviors that bubble up, and start actually doing that. I mean, in this particular question, it was around happiness, and self-sabotaging. Every time something great is happening in their life, they start self-sabotaging that.
Yeah, because we don't deserve it. In the case of happiness, we don't believe, we have this underlying belief. Some of us have this underlying belief that we don't deserve to be happy. Therefore, in the effort to prove ourselves right, we go over and beyond to make sure that we prove ourselves right. Because at the end of the day, being right is one of the greatest human desire, mm-hmm. second to love. Mm-hmm. And we do crazy stuff. We say crazy things. We come up with so many creative stories just so we can prove ourselves right.
Yeah.
And yes, and that's true for me in many aspects of my life, but, primarily with, my romantic relationship with my spouse, with Jen, my wife. And I don't deserve to, because my underlying belief is that I'm not enough. I'm not deserving of love. And therefore, in the effort to prove myself right, I have to self-sabotage relationships somehow. Mm-hmm. So I say, you see, I was right. See, I'm not, you don't love me.
Yeah.
You don't care about me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, in so many different aspects of the life, the self-sabotage is going to show up, I think, a little different. And in regards to this feeling of like not deserving, how that ends up, a very reoccurring and very recent challenge for me is like getting my workouts in, right? Or spending the time for myself. And I'm coming off of a month challenge that I had for myself, and where I was checking the boxes like every single day, getting the morning breath work in, getting the morning stretching in, and getting the workouts in, ice baths. Like I was dialed in, and my body was responding really well to it. And I was feeling good, no injuries. Because again, as long as you probably know me, I've had back injuries, hip injuries. Like it's been really limiting for me.
And guess what?
Then you fall off.
But what happened?
So this is the thing. So yeah, now right now I'm dealing with some pain again, right? Because I fell off.
What do you think that is?
But the thing for sure, but the thing is, this is how it shows up, right? It's sneaky. Yeah. It's really sneaky, right? Yeah. So it's like, you're feeling good. I'm talking about it. I'm telling people like, hey, like it's the little things. You just got to get back to the little things. Like I'm walking testimony right now. I'm feeling amazing. Yeah. But then again, and I'm like, just can't fall off. And then I fall off, right? But how it was masked for me was losing a couple employees. Mm-hmm. So my right hand over at Spacebar moved back to Chicago. So there's 40 hours unaccounted for. Lost another employee. So there's 2 gone right there. So real quickly, I do have to fill in some hours. And I latch onto that as being the excuse, because what's more familiar to me than feeling good and being happy is not feeling good and being a martyr or being sad or being a victim, So as soon as life presents me an opportunity to latch onto that and go back to my default, because that is more of a natural state for me, mm-hmm. turning out to be a little bit of a sad boy here, right? And it's that's a natural state. Mm-hmm. So first thing to go, workouts. First thing to go, me getting out of bed. The thing that really has shifted for me is that there's still just as much time in the morning. It's more of something chemically happening here where it's like, I just can't pull myself out for those 30 minutes in bed. I'm hitting snooze, mm-hmm. And then that what that leads into then now a lack of real confidence, like a lack of confidence to do the things that I need to do. And then as the day now goes through, I have people rooting for me. I have people around me that are clients of mine that I'm taking through workouts, and they know, and they're like, dude, like, what can I do for you to help hold you accountable to your stuff? And how quick I am for these excuses. Be like, I can't, I just don't have time because I got to hold down the shift, and it's like, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. When it's just, I'm convinced I don't have time. It's self-sabotage, mm-hmm. masked up, wrapped up in a beautiful little mm-hmm. bow that I was just really mm-hmm. ready to receive because I was feeling too good. I was too happy, and I'm just not, that's not my default state. So things get shaken up. You go back to what you're used to, right. Shit.
That's right.
It's wild.
Yes.
And I think explaining that to people, because I was just talking to somebody about that too. So she was like, come to yoga with me. I was like, you understand that if I went to yoga with you, I wouldn't have an excuse to be miserable. So can't go.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. So
that's absolutely right.
So any last comments on that idea?
No, I mean, like I say, it's self-sabotage. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And to be honest too, I haven't crossed paths with anyone who didn't deal with it, who's not dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it's real. There is nothing wrong with feeling that we are self-sabotaging ourselves. The only thing that we can do is have awareness. Obviously, this goal sounds like has awareness around the fact that it's self-sabotage. So that's 50% of the battle right there. Mm-hmm. And then as to find ways, it's for us to find ways how to cope with that, how to snap out of there, right? How we can change the language, how we can change how we can change the narrative, right? As we're dealing with that.
Yeah.
What are the things that we can tell ourselves or feel or do that can snap out of that state? So this is the thing that and that varies, it's different for everyone. So the first thing is to recognize those patterns, like I say, and then find ways to move away from them. Accept them, acknowledge them, respect them. It's okay. It's a natural state to be in. All right. But how can I pivot? How can I change the course so I can actually reap the benefit of whatever it is that I'm doing?
Yeah. I mean, again, the simple fact that you're aware of that is a step in the right direction. Some people need to learn to be a little less hard on themselves, while others need to learn how to be harder on themselves. And like, this is the part that living the examined life is so important, because you're looking at your behavior, you're looking how you're showing up, and you're noticing something that's not really serving you. And you have an interest now to change that. And just always know self-sabotage probably is going to mean that you're butting up on your comfort zone. You're trying to do something a little different. And that's just that form of resistance trying to pull you back into your comfort zone. And again, for someone like me, sometimes that comfort zone is being a victim or being unhappy or whatever it might be. For you, it might look a little different. So just keep on that path, stay aware of it. And I think you're going to overcome that. And then there's going to be a new challenge. There's going to be a new form of self-sabotage. It's not going to go anywhere. So with that being said, really appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time with us and being a part of these conversations. I think this is the goal for us, is to focus in on one particular area, just hammer that out for 20 minutes, talk about our past experiences with it, our current experiences, because like I said, it ain't going anywhere. It's current. Until next time, we're out of here.
Yes.